The crystalline throne room of the Zixthari Imperial cruiser hummed with barely contained rage. Alexander stood at attention, his standard-issue diplomatic uniform feeling woefully inadequate as the towering figure of Queen Veltara loomed before him. Her 6 limbs trembled with fury, her bioluminescent markings pulsing in angry crimson that bathed the entire chamber in blood-red light. "You dare!" she hissed, her translator struggling to convey the depths of her anger. "To mock the traditions of my people?" Alexander's heart hammered against his ribs, but he kept his expression neutral. Behind him, he could sense Anna's presence. His fellow diplomat and friend had insisted on accompanying him despite the obvious danger. The Queen's guards, massive warriors encased in living armor, had their weapons trained on both humans. "Your Majesty," Alexander began carefully. "I assure you, no mockery was intended. Silence." The Queen's roar reverberated through the chamber, causing the crystalline walls to sing with harmonic resonance. She descended from her throne with predatory grace, each of her movements calculated and lethal. "Your delegation arrives at our most sacred ceremony, the bonding of souls. And your diplomat," she gestured with a clawed appendage toward Anna. "She laughs. She laughs at our most holy moment." Alexander's mind raced. The incident had happened 3 hours ago. Anna had been observing the ceremony when she'd made a sound, a small, involuntary noise that the Zixthari had interpreted as mockery. The cultural misunderstanding had escalated faster than anyone could have anticipated. "Your Majesty, please." Anna stepped forward, her voice steady despite the obvious danger. "I didn't laugh at your ceremony. I was moved by it, moved to derision." The Queen cut her off, her secondary arms spreading wide in a gesture of absolute authority. "The Zixthari Empire does not tolerate disrespect. For 5,000 cycles, we have conquered worlds, subjugated species, and maintained order through strength. And now, these ... humans. These newcomers to the galactic stage dare to insult us?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop. This was it, the moment that could trigger a war between humanity and one of the galaxy's most powerful empires. Earth's fragile position in the Galactic Council hung by a thread. Alexander took a breath and made a decision that would either save millions of lives or end his own. "Your Majesty, may I speak freely?" The Queen's eyes, all 4 of them, fixed on him with predatory intensity. "Speak, human. Your final words may be the only mercy I grant." "You're right," Alexander said, and he heard Anna's sharp intake of breath behind him. "You're absolutely right that we're newcomers. We've been in space for barely a century, while your empire spans millennia. We don't understand all your customs, all your traditions. We make mistakes." He took a step forward, and the guards tensed. But the Queen raised a hand to stop them. "But here's what I've learned about humans in my time as a diplomat," Alexander continued, his voice growing stronger. "When we first encountered the Regellian Collective, they told us we were too emotional, too irrational to ever succeed in space. When we met the Silicon Confederacy, they said we were too short-lived to matter. The Velkari said we were too weak. Every species we've met has underestimated us because we're new, because we're different, because we made mistakes." The Queen's markings flickered, shifting from crimson to something closer to orange curiosity, perhaps. "And you know what humans do when we're underestimated?" Alexander pressed on. "We prove them wrong. Not through conquest, not through intimidation, but through persistence, adaptation, and yes, through our emotions." "Anna didn't laugh at your ceremony, Your Majesty." She gasped. He turned slightly to look at Anna, who nodded, her eyes glistening. "She gasped," Alexander repeated, "because she recognized something in your bonding of soul ceremony. Something that exists in human culture, too. The idea that 2 beings can become so perfectly united that they transcend individual existence. We call it love, partnership, soulmates. When Anna made that sound, it wasn't mockery. It was recognition. It was the sound a human makes when they see something beautiful that reminds them of home. The silence that followed was deafening. The Queen's markings had shifted again, now cycling through colors Alexander couldn't interpret. She descended the final steps until she stood directly before him, towering over his comparatively small frame. "You claim your species understands the bonding?" Her voice was softer now, dangerous in a different way. "I claim," Alexander said quietly, "that despite our differences, our biology, our history, our place in the cosmos, there might be more similarities between our species than differences. And those similarities are worth exploring before we make enemies of each other." The Queen stood motionless for what felt like an eternity. Then, slowly, her markings shifted to a soft, pulsing blue. "In all my cycles as Queen," she said finally, her voice carrying a weight that made Alexander's breath catch, "I have conquered worlds, destroyed fleets, and broken the wills of countless species. I have been feared, respected, and obeyed without question. But in all those cycles, across all those conquests, do you know what no one, not a single being, has ever done?" Alexander shook his head slowly. The Queen's expression shifted into what might have been a smile difficult to tell on such an alien face. "No one has ever suggested that my anger might stem from a misunderstanding rather than disrespect. No one has ever stood before me unarmed and offered understanding instead of groveling for mercy. No one has ever suggested that the great Zixthari Empire might have something in common with a species of short-lived mammals from a backwater world." She turned away, her markings now glowing a warm gold. "Your words, human Alexander, have left me speechless. A feat I did not think possible." The Queen returned to her throne, and when she spoke again, her voice carried through the entire chamber. "The incident is forgiven. More than that, I invite both human delegates to remain for the completion of our sacred ceremony. Perhaps it is time the Zixthari learned that there are other ways to be strong in this universe beyond conquest." As the tension finally broke and the guards lowered their weapons, Anna moved to stand beside Alexander. "That," she whispered, "was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen." Alexander managed a weak smile. "Probably both." But as they stood together, watching the Queen's markings pulse with colors of peace and curiosity, he allowed himself to hope that humanity had just taken its most important step yet into the galactic community, not through weapons or technology, but through the simple act of reaching across the cosmic divide with empathy and understanding. The Zixthari Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds through fear. Perhaps, Alexander thought, it was time someone showed them a different kind of strength.